Right. Let me get a microphone check. Okay. All right, all right, all right. So I'm gonna do a live, quick live. I'm out and about. Take a little walk. You dig? Nice cool night. And I was gonna make a well, I will eventually make a video, like a real presentation on this. But I said, let me just give a rough draft of some things that's important because there's a lot of confusion going on with the language, and it's very important we straighten out the language. So as you can see, when I was so-called debating people, and they're confused, right, and everything, and they got disingenuous questions, bad faith questions, things like that, and then they're using black for themselves, and these are people who are non-FBAs, and I see, okay, this is the confusion, especially when they talk to like people not outside of myself. When they talk to you guys, when they talk to Jason Black, she, my boy, ex-architect, all you guys need to check them on Black. So I was watching a little bit of Tariq Nasheed versus the Barbs, and then Dan finally said something to one of those Barbs. He was like, "You ain't black," or "Nikki ain't black," something like that. I'm like, "Thank you," because the confusion is they're calling themselves black, and we're not checking them. We're letting them call themselves black, so now they're confused on why we're delineating amongst black people. You feel me? So to them, it makes no sense. They're like, yo, why are you delineating from black people? We're black, you are black. That's why I take that from them immediately. I snatch that flying carpet from their feet so they can fall back down to earth. Get off their high horse. You're not black. You said Nikki was Trinidadian, Cardi B, or Dominican, whatever. That's exactly what you are. And then you got to correct them and educate them. Listen, you think we're using black from a skin tone. Remind them, Beyonce is considered black, and so is Jay-Z and their lovely daughter. And none of them are dark skinned. Okay. Denzel Washington's black, he's not dark skinned. So we're not using black to describe how we look physically. That's how Arabs and that's how colonizers use black as a derogatory term and to describe a color of the people they're attempting to colonize. So you got the Arabs who call the Sudanese people Balad al Sudan. Sudan. Okay, the dark people of Sudan, the black people of Sudan. Adjective, descriptor, color. Okay. Now, when your ops call you a name and define it for you, you can do two things. You can accept it or reject it. You dig? So Sudanese people, so okay, so when your ops name you something, that that name is called an ethnonym. Now, how you receive that name determines if it's a exonym or endonym. You copy, you dig. Okay, let me fly this plane. Okay, buckle up. Now, Sudanese people took on the name and the definition of the Arabs. That's called an exonym. They took on the name and the definition of their oppressor. Okay, and they have that name till today. All right, they're called Sudanese people. Exonym. When I argue, I'm saying we're the only people on earth to use a color. So it's a couple things here that I'm making. So you got to pay attention. I'm making a claim that we're the only people to use a color outside of its adjectiveness, if I can say that, outside of its descriptor usage. And we're using it as a noun, but not any old noun, Noun, not any old noun, but a proper noun. So we're forcing the world to put the respect on Black and capitalize it. Everybody else that would call Black, their B were not capitalized, it's lowercase. I say big B, little b. Okay, so even with that, so the confusion last time with cis, when I was explaining that, even with that, the little b doesn't count because none of those guys today call themselves by that name, little b, today anyway. So if they did take this descriptive term, they still rejected the little b. Okay, right. But that's not what my claim is. My claim is we are the only Black people, proper noun, person, place, or thing. It is capitalize it. That's a big difference than a descriptor adjective word. Okay, we're not describing shit. We're defining and explaining who we are, our unique experience, unique ethnogenesis. Okay, so when people got around to name themselves, they didn't take on Black. Okay, that was given to them by an outsider, Europeans or Arabs. When they had a chance to name themselves, it was not Black. It was names like Ghana, names like Eritrean, names like Jamaican or Jamaica, Haiti, Haitian, okay? Jamaican. This is what they called themselves when they had a chance to name themselves. They didn't name themselves after a color and use it in a proper noun sense. Okay? So when people say they're Black Brits right now in the UK, that ain't the Black how we use Black. They're describing themselves how they look. They're describing what kind of Brit they are. You dig? And this comes way after our usage, of course. Now, these so-called Black Brits, they have another name. What's the other name? They named themselves, they understand they're West African. They understand they're Nigerian. So with that understanding being on the table, you're out. We don't have a second name. We're just Black. We're Black Americans. There's no second name. There's no, okay, so Black Brit, right? And they'd be like, yeah, West Africa, Nigeria. Like, I nigga, you Nigerian. Okay, Black Brit, you Nigerian, bro. Living in Britain, UK. You're not Black. You're just copying off of us. You're not doing it right. You don't understand that we don't have another term outside of Black. Just like Haitians don't have another term out of being Haitian. Jamaicans, I would assume Jamaican, so forth and so on. Now, we know that white people continue to name people things like the West Indies. That's the white man influence. Okay. And then we have, oh yeah, it's it's cold. It's not ridiculous, but it is cold. Yeah. So anyway, I was trying to my son was waking up, so that's why I get away from it. I go live. He's gonna wake up, obviously, right? Especially how loud I get. Okay. So yeah, they're not Black. They're using it the way they think we use it, but they're just Nigerian. And they're using Black as a sense to erase their their past. Like, dude, you're Nigerian. You're a Black. You're not going to recreate yourself over here in the UK in the 1990s, the 2000s, 2010. That's when they got there. These guys are calling themselves Black Brit. They just got there. No, literally, it just got there. They're either uh, daughters and sons of so either their parents are direct immigrants or they're second gen. Okay, so either their parents are direct immigrants or they're second gen at most, at latest. They're second gen. They recently just got the hell black about you, bro. You African, you West African, you're Nigerian. All right, be Nigerian. Be proud tonight. Be proud to be Nigerian. Okay, so real easy. We're the only blacks in that we named ourselves black. We gave it its own definition. It's a proper noun. It checks all the boxes to be an ethnonym, right? Jamaican is a proper noun. Haitian, Congolese, Eritrean. So black, when we use black, it checks all the boxes of other ethnonyms. Okay. Okay. Hopefully we're getting somewhere. I mean, I didn't plan on going live at all, but I charged my phone about to die. I gave it like 40%. Let me do a quick live to get all this out the way. So that's what we mean by we're the only black. All right, nobody else is black because they're literally not black. They are literally from their country and they're named after their country, their language, or their tribe. Literally, they're not black. Like I said, the Black Brits are Nigerian. Okay, and they're not going to deny that. They're going to say, yeah, West African Nigerian. Okay, Black Brits and shit they made up. Cosplay us. That's why it's important that we do not acknowledge them as black in conversation, especially when it's a debate. You're muddying you wonder why you're struggling. It's because you allow them to call themselves black, which makes the argument stupid. Because they're looking like, hey, I'm one of you, and you're saying they are not. They're like, wait, aren't you black? Aren't I black? We're the same. Okay, and even when they use it like that, they're using it as a racialized term. They're not even using it as an ethnonym, even when they use it in that sense. Let me ask Google something. How did the U.S. Give me a second. Let me type this in. Oh man, I got this African clicking and popping. Oh, I gotta show that before it is live. I mean, this guy was fluent. And the caption is, "This is the hardest language to write down." He's clicking and popping. Of course it is. How do you write down a click and a? How do you write this down? Like, how do you write this down? Like, how do you write this down? Like, how do you start to spell that? It's the hardest. Really? Good luck with that shit. You're not writing that down. Okay. That's your damn mind. But it's gonna be funny when I show the guy because he was going in. And yo, it is really freezing. It's gotta be like 27 degrees on the low end. Okay. So I asked, how did the US government define black in the 1970s? Not how we define it, how did they come behind and define it? Because we called ourselves black in the late 50s and early 60s. They hopped on board and called us black from their own way. Okay. So It says the U.S. government did not have a single universal definition for Black in 1970. Okay, uh, that applied across all contexts, but in federal reporting and the census, it generally used categories based on origin or ancestry. For the 1970 census, most Americans filled out their own forms, and Black was one of the available categories, not African American. Black was there. Like I said, you guys not ready. You're not ready, man. Run your mouth. You're not ready. Okay. So let's morph into that now. So I explained who's Black, who's not Black. Okay. So in conversations, even if you even pull up on Jason Black or Tweet Nasheed or Afro Elite, politely tell them, hey man, that person not even Black. Like just call them, ask them where they're from, and call them after their homeland, which they do. Okay. When they take their ass back to Zimbabwe, they're not saying they're Black. They're saying Zimbabwean. Okay. Oh, they're only Black magically when they get here. When they want some tangible money's allocated, all of a sudden they're Black. Okay. Anyway, so I got to catch. If somebody can, yeah, if somebody can email me if you're up and I'm up. If somebody can email me whenever Tariq's on Twitter or whatever, if y'all can email me the direct link to click it, I don't care how late it is. If I'm up, I click it. If I'm not up, I'm not gonna click it. Real simple. But the next time he's up late on Twitter or TikTok, and he's fending off some Heathers and Coons and white supremacists, send me an email of the like copy the link, send me an email and say put in the title the subject Tariq's Live. You dig? My email is so easy to remember. Black, not African, okay? Black think tank at yahoo.com. I made up this email in the early 2000s. Okay, Black think tank at yahoo.com. Okay, so I black. We got weirdos that's online, but I was at somebody's channel watching them debate. You know what I mean? Just peeking in. Normally, when I go to people's channels, I don't say nothing. I just watch. I said, okay, let me say something just for that. You know what I mean? And of course, I became the focus. Like they stopped watching the debate. The all the comments about the debate stopped in the chat, and everything was focused on me. It's like, yeah, I'm like a little chatter celebrity. Like, all right, well, shit. Maybe I need to start conducting myself a little differently. Like these folks out here really got me as like a leader too. And very shortly they're gonna be saying I'm the leader. But that's how they treat me. Like they going to my Facebook. Oh, he's from Newark. No, he's from this city in Plainfield. Why do you care? What is that going to change? What you gonna pull up? Hey, you better say you're African American. Shit, you got a gun. Hey, I'm African American for today. For this live stream, I'm African American. You got that gun or knife, sir? That damn pipe bomb, that cocktail. You dig? Yeah, I'm that for tonight. You dig? Yeah, that it means that much to you. Like, yeah, so these guys will treat me like a damn celebrity, like a chat, chatter celebrity. Like the second time I went to a chat to not debate, just comment on the topic, right? The video is being played. And I become the focal point. So I'm like, okay. People started to put some respect on the name. And then you'll see the people who would normally talk trash about me quiet. It works the other way too. The people who would normally gossip on panels when I come in the chat, they like either staying quiet or they like saluting me with a salute emoji. Hold on. Okay. Um, yeah, so anyway, so they go to my Facebook uh picture and they see me with a red, black, and green, like a little something behind, like some bullshit behind my head, some red, black, and green. Oh, look, he used to be red, black, and green. Now he's okay. First of all, I was never like you can't find no videos where I'm all in on red, black, and green. Like you'll see an image, you might see me with a dashiki, okay? And that's the thing, family. They think because we embrace something for the moment that we were down for 10, 20 years and we no weirdos. I wear a dashiki. I might wear it again. Who knows? I might wear another one. That don't mean I'm Pan-African. That don't mean I'm down with the cause of Pan-Africanism. Oh, red, black, and green behind that. Bro, do you see the picture? Do you see how young I look? Do you see how many braids I got in my hair, you fool? Why don't you go see the date on the picture? And again, that don't symbolize, oh, Ron, I'm by Ron. He was a Pan-African. Yeah, you let me know the circles of Pan-African African that I was around and knew. Ask what Pan-African out there on earth had me in their group and we talking about someone, yo, we gotta buy the block back in Africa. Yo, we should start selling fly swatters and deodorant in Africa. Yo, we make a lot of money. Like, come on, bro. Stop. So, but like I already do those pictures there. I'm not gonna take them down. Like, yeah, for what? See, taking something down will signify you got something to hide. No, you leave it up. And like, unless if you were a Pan African, so what? You know better now. You dig? I was in the Nation of Islam, the organization, registered Muslim, Ron X was. That's past tense. Oh man, look, we found his photo of a. He got a bow tie, a bean pie in his hand. Oh, we expose you. Really? Okay. So, but even still, we accept that you can be a Pan African and FBA. Now we don't know how that really works, but we accept those two things can be true, and that's not a contradiction. You can be both because a Pan African is an ideology that does not work. It's a failed ideology, and uh, FBA is your lineage. That's the name of your lineage. Like a Jamaican can be a Pan African, an Italian can be a goddamn uh, poker player, whatever they want to be. They could be that. Okay, that they don't take away from how you were born. So no, FB is not an ideology. It's not a theology, not a doctrine like Pan Africanism is, or the nation of Islamism is. It's not like that. All right. Yeah, they're gonna expose me. Okay. Anyway, so FBA, let's get there now. So stop letting them say they're black. Check them immediately. Like ask them when they become black. Ask them where they're from. And once they give you their homeland, like, aren't you? Oh, you from Kenya? So aren't you Kenyan? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm black too. Okay. Well, when do you? Okay. How long have you been calling yourself Kenyan? I don't know. They're gonna look dumb. Then you're gonna say, well, wasn't it as long as the country was named Kenya, right? When it was named Kenya, it had residents, and the residents were citizens. It had citizens, and the citizens were named Kenyans, right? Okay. When did you become black? That's the next question. Okay, so when did you become black? Let me help you out. It had to be after 1960. You know how I know why? You know how I know why? Because nobody called themselves black and defined it before us, before the Black Power, Black and Proud movement. Okay? So we know it's after 1960. That means it's after us. So if we called ourselves something, how do you get to become that? Did you ask us? You just took it. That's not how that works. Chop, chop. Okay. That's not how that works. There's levels to this. Okay. Um, make sure my audio good. Got it. Now let's start with the slave trade. Yes, Africans sold Africans. So this weirdo, and yo, they are really butthurt and they really have a thing for me. They feel like I have a strong voice in this space. That's how they feel. Like I look at myself as just another voice amongst 43 million FBAs. They see my voice as a strong voice. The dude Shah's son, the dude that got ADHD, he all hyper shit, can't shut up. He's on that other channel where I was at. Hey, yeah, you said I was wrong. You said I was wrong when I said Africans weren't majority the people selling Africans. I said, no, you were wrong. Okay? He said, I said they had involvement. Yeah, but they had most of all the involvement. They had most of the involvement. They had most of the involvement. Yeah, Europeans play a little role in the Africans. When I say role, I'm talking about selling and kidnapping, slave raiding. That's so. Let's be specific. The Europeans' role in the transatlantic slave trade as sellers and slave raiders, minimum low. Okay, that role was almost exclusively just Africans. Large percentage of slave raids, large percentages of the selling were Africans. Then you ask this question. So you mean tell me white folks were selling Africans to themselves? So why is it called the all right, dude. Okay. Come on, man. All right. And like he really wants to like let's debate. Okay. Oh, your son, like never seen my son day in his life, but yeah, oh, your son. Like grown ass man talk about a little 4 year old. They never seen him. A grown man is getting on a 4 year old because he is a liar when it comes to Africans' role in selling us to white people. He's gonna talk about a 4 year old. So I said, you know what? Thank you for saying it. You cannot just get the blocking because I was going to entertain you one more time, not my channel. I said the channel we were on. I was going to entertain him and beat him up real fast, but not my channel. He's not going to waste no time on my channel. So I said, good. You gave me a reason to block you and ignore you forever. Good. Now go away. Okay. So after we were sold in the 12, in the millions, 12 to 15 million, all right, to Europeans. Okay. So that started the diaspora. We were dropped off during the diaspora. Out of 12 to 15 million, only 385,000, around that much, were sent to America. That's it. And guess what? Some didn't stay in America. So, so the slave ships, when they came to America, not everybody who got off the slave ships qualifies as FBA. You know why? Because some of them got shipped out to, they stopped here and got back on another boat and went to the islands or went to Brazil somewhere. Okay. And they became that. The ones who remained here and went through U.S. chattel slavery, that is the start of the conversation of being FBA. Okay. So if somebody was truly here and people were here when we got here, if they didn't experience U.S. chattel slavery, they're not FBA. They're just who they are, right? That's all. They are our pals. They're our allies, I guess. But that's it. They're not FBA. So if somebody want to say they were already here and they didn't experience chattel slavery, hey, fine. You're not FBA. You are exactly who you say you are. No different than a Jamaican or Haitian or Kenyan, Irish person. Okay, let's go further. So the ones who got thrown into U.S. chattel slavery, it wouldn't matter if it was those who came off the slave ships, those who were already here, or some aliens that fell out of a UFO, if they all experienced U.S. chattel slavery, right, and were either emancipated or freed, one of four ways, they got bought out of slavery, became a free black. The term is free blacks, by the way. The term is not free Africans. Hello? The ones who were bought out of slavery or got out of slavery but were not emancipated, these folks were not called freed Africans, or you African booty scratchers. They were called free blacks in history. Okay? So you were bought out of slavery, you bought yourself out of slavery, you were born free, born out of slavery. So I'm saying bought, B-O-U-G-H-T, bought out of slavery by somebody else. You bought yourself out of slavery. You were born out of slavery. You were not enslaved when you were born free, or through meritorious manumission. Maybe some good acts. Slave master felt like, all right, bro, you did enough. Let you free. Or maybe you snitched on somebody else, But that's all meritorious manumission. One of those four ways you could have shortened your slavery, a little earlier, prior to Emancipation Proclamation. But they called free blacks in history. They're not called free Africans. So take that mental note. Okay, going further. These people, again, became free blacks, and others, the majority, were enslaved on a plantation somewhere in the South, even though there's a nice number in up north. It was nice. There's a nice number. There's a nice number up north somewhere. You feel me? Okay, so those free blacks, some of them wanted to leave the country. They thought it was better somewhere else. So some of them went to across Sierra Leone, just different parts of Africa. They did. That's what they did. They felt like it'd be different over there somehow, and they learned very fast. These guys are compromised. These guys signed treaties. They validated white supremacy. All right. So of course, a lot of them returned. At the same time, you had the ACS going on, the American Colonization Society. Yes, they had a colony in Africa and Liberia, right? They bought it. And in their mind, they felt like free blacks were going to be a headache because they're out here buying property, they're out here living, living big during the height of slavery, living big. And they feel like, hey, these guys are going to be asking for rights, citizenship, all type of stuff. So let's go ahead and like they can already feel that they're also inciting just their presence of being free around enslaved people. They're inciting those enslaved people to not want to be enslaved anymore. So a possible rebellion. By the way, it was about 300,000 to 400,000 free blacks. Yeah, that number. I didn't stutter. 300 to 400,000 free blacks at that time. Okay. All right. So with that being said, they so now the ACS, they said, okay, we're gonna ship these free blacks to Liberia. Since this colony, we're gonna act like it is so beautiful, it's the promised land, this is your freedom. We're gonna paint this narrative that this is the next step, but it won't be in this country. Right. So obviously out of the 300, 400,000 free blacks, they were not buying it. So what the ACS did was they said, all right, well, look, the free blacks don't want to go. What we're going to do is we're going to help not help, but we're going to free other enslaved blacks from plantations, but on one condition, that they go to Liberia. Otherwise, they stay enslaved on the plantation. So, of course, some slaves like, hey, I don't want to be on a plantation no more. Big Liberia, okay, sounds great. Let me see the brochure. Looks great. All right. Of course, they paint a picture that it was like kind of like Marcus Garvey saying he's gonna ship people to Liberia with these fancy big old cruise ships. So They were very unsuccessful in what they set out to do. Out of 300 and 400,000 free blacks, they were only able to ship to Liberia about 12,000. That's a very tiny number compared to 300, 400,000, right? So they started to war with the natives there. They went there, obviously the ACS was like putting the American Liberians, they were called at that time. They started to put them in position of leadership, things like that, purposely trying to stir up some issues there, which worked. So they started to have beef with the natives. They tried to do some Hutus, Tutsi, Rwanda genocide thing there. It didn't get that message, but they did have some fallout. So now we have the Civil War approach, right? So all of those free blacks, not all, but a lot of the free blacks who left the country to go find some residence in Africa because they believed the grass was greener until they got there. They realized, well, these guys colonized, compromised, and worse because these guys got a white supremacist mindset, right? Anyway, once word got back to them that the Civil War will indeed happen and there's a chance to fight for your freedom and citizenship, all those fake Pan-African, all going to the motherland, not all, but a large majority brought their butt right back over here to fight for citizenship and liberty, emancipation, to be emancipated. Okay. So now those free blacks were free, but they were not emancipated. What's the difference between an emancipated black and a free black? A free black still don't have rights, still don't have citizenship. He's still not seen as an American. An emancipated black, that person is protected under the Constitution, at least on paper. So they become a full American, a full citizen. That's the difference between a free black who freed themselves or got freed or married to his manumission and were no longer enslaved from an emancipated black. 1865. So history tells you that we helped fight the war. We kicked the Confederates ass, the South ass, and we became emancipated. We were free. Okay. Now from there we had Black Reconstruction, not African Reconstruction, not African American Reconstruction. That period when we start to put ourselves in the position of mayors, governors, congressmen, congresswomen, we were seen as, or that period was called Black Reconstruction. So stay with me. Free blacks, Black Reconstruction. All you keep hearing in the beginning, black, 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 black. Okay. So now on paper and legally, we would call it Negroes of color. All right. So after that, KKK rolls up. Shortly after that, ended Black Reconstruction, and now we have the system of Jim Crow. 100 years of that, a lot of bull crap came out of that, and now we're in post integration or post Jim Crow now, 1968. Okay, now that 1968 period that became post Jim Crow, that is known as the Black Civil Rights period, not the African American Civil Rights period or movement or act. Okay, that's known as the Black Civil Rights Movement. Right? Following so far, Malcolm X, black man, black man, black man. Dr. King said he's proud to be black. So now black is taking on positive attributes. Okay? No longer the black is bad, evil, black magic, voodoo, and all that type of stuff. Superstition is taking on positive attributes. Okay? Black and beautiful. Black and proud, James Brown. Black power, Stokely Carmichael. Black American heritage flag, Marvin Charles in 1967. You see? So the Black American heritage flag even came up during that time in the 1960s. Everybody, black, 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 black. And a little bit earlier than that, you had the Black Renaissance, not the African American Renaissance, the Black Renaissance. Okay. You had black banks. You had black Wall Street. I recall W.E. Du Bois writing a book called The Souls of Black Folk, not the souls of Africans or not the souls of African Americans, but the souls of Black folk. Black, biggity black, bliggity, bliggity, bliggity black. Okay, all day long. That was the language. And then in 1970, the government took black and made it the um, the racialized term for us when it comes to collecting data for the Census Bureau, all type of stuff. They had us down officially as black on paper in 1970. Okay. All right. Let me see what I put some notes. You see if I missed anything. This is all off the top. I didn't miss anything. But let me just say, oh, the NOI, the Nation of Islam, they were known as the Black Muslims, not as the African Muslims or the African American Muslims. The Nation of Islam were called the Black Muslims. Uh, okay. Give me a sec. I'm making some coffee. Give me a second. Give me a second. You dig? Cash app, dollar sign, unbiased Ron. This is why they don't call it. Nobody can put it together this neatly. Okay. Or at least you never heard it put together this neatly before. Let me read some chat. Let me see what's going on in chat, the chat world. Okay. Exactly, Mo. Black with a capital B, not black with a lowercase b. Put some respect on the name. Proper noun black. Give me a second to fix my coffee, and then we'll continue shortly. We put my Cash App in there for anybody who's feeling what we got going on right now. 'Cause I know for a fact it was never put together like this before. And I made it so simple too to follow. Yeah. I didn't make it all deep where it miss you, sound all smart. Okay, so now what happened? So now this 1960 period to 1970, 30 years after we said we're black, 30 years after that, black is tied to so many positive things, so many accomplishments, so many wins. Like again, the Black Civil Rights Movement, that's a big win. Black Wall Street was phenomenal, right? Something that's recorded in history. So black is tied to so many victories, so many great things, unmatchable things that make us so great, separate from everybody else in the world. Our greatness is separate from everybody else in the world. Jesse Jackson, 30 years later, urged white people, not black people, white people to replace, not add, listen to my language, not add African American along with black, which is still stupid, but to replace black. Black is tied to all these great things I talked about. Free blacks, Black Wall Street, Black Renaissance in Harlem, Black love, but all this black, right? Black Civil Rights Movement, all this great stuff black is tied to, attached to, married to. Jesse Jackson urges white people to replace black with African American, and nothing is tied to it. And by the way, this is at the height. This is when this is at the height of the crack epidemic. So he wants to replace black out of nowhere with African American at the height of the crack epidemic. This is 1988, 1990, by the way. So the question that you should ask people, why was it necessary to bring an African American to replace Black? After all, it's a new term, it's a new word. Don't they say that to us? Don't they say, hey, that's a new word? We don't need a new word. Well, why did you introduce African American? We didn't need a new word, right? Let's keep the same smoke. As a matter of fact, we're not introducing a new word. We are reintroducing an old word, Black. But what we're doing is we're arming it this time where it can no longer be replaced. Black by itself was left negative. Now we're arming Black with foundational and DAS, Foundation Black American, Descendants of Slaves. We're arming it where it no longer can be replaced. Hold on as I make this call. You're witnessing why they'll talk about me, but won't click that link. Now, there's no link to click tonight. I'm not talking about tonight. There's no link tonight. Yeah, after this was a quick live. So there's no link after today. I mean, there's no link for today's live. Okay? I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about when I normally put it out there for challenges. This is why they don't click it. You can arm with information like this off the top of the head. I don't need to Google, ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, off the top. I brought you all the way from Africa, being sold all the way to 1990. So again, the question is, why would Jesse Jackson want to replace such a beautiful term that's tied to so many historical W's? Why would you want to get rid of that for a new word that has no history behind it? And now, going forward, looking backwards, what is tied to African Americans? The crack epidemic, 94 crime bill, mass incarceration, food to prison pipeline. Like, what positive is attached to these words? That's why people like myself look at this as a deliberate op move. And anybody who's out there championing this word over Black is on board that op that that operation. You dig? There's no need to replace a beautiful term. Like, we're Black and beautiful. When did we ever say we're African American and beautiful? We're African and beautiful. When did we ever say that? Out of nowhere. Nobody was calling for it out of nowhere. This dude, and guess who hopped on with this? George Bush. George Herbert Bush said in a 1989 eulogy, a year later, he said, yeah, this is a good term. George Bush. You got Republicans, you got Democrats, you got the liberal media, Jewish media, everybody is on board with this word, African American family, in just 1 year. FBA Adolf, we're 8 years in. And we got a lot of work to do. With the help of liberal news and Republican news families, we were African American in 1 year. If that ain't crazy, I don't know what it is. Okay, so then about less than 10 years after Jesse Jackson urged us to become African American, so we were still in the census. We were African American on the census. We were still Black. So now look what happened. Now keep in mind, let's look at the dates. 1990, we have the crack epidemic booming. We got this new term African American, and isn't this the time where Afro immigrants start to influx the country in large waves? So they come at the right time. They don't come in when we're just Black and they got to be who they are from their homeland. They come at this country at the right time when this African American word is produced. Now all of a sudden, an influx of Afro immigrants come to America. Okay, I don't like to believe that was just some wild coincidence. I like to believe that was the game plan, right? That is what I believe. Now, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. One second. Okay. Give me a second. I'm back. Okay. I got some. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. Let's get back to it. So, okay. So now history bear record of this, right? So now a large wave of immigrants come at the same time this African American word introduced to us. Okay. Now, what is the problem with this word? This word became a huge problem because these recent immigrants that are Afro immigrants are attached to this word from these Census Bureau forms. Okay. So they're coming over here, Jamaican, Trinidadian, West African, Nigerian, Kenya. But when they fill out the forms, there's no Kenyan on the form. There's no tether on the form. You dig? You have to fill out Black African American. So now, what happens after a while, family? What happens after time? What happens after you fill out this box over and over and over, 10, 15 years? You're gonna now believe you're that. You're gonna you're gonna attach yourself to that word outside of the form. You did like you're gonna attach yourself to that form out to that word outside the form. You're gonna see yourself as an African American. Okay, and the word took on obviously to cover them. It took on a dual usage, which caused problems and caused confusion. Right. So you got people, you got recent immigrants saying they're African American, and you got foundational Black Americans saying they're African Americans. All right. So now we're looking at each other and we know we're not the same. We're like, okay, we're totally different. So I can't be one if you're one. And they're saying we can't be one if they're one. So this is causing confusion. You cannot have an ethnonym that has a dual usage. Ethnonyms are very clear, very specific, very particular. When you say Haitian, you say Kenyan, when you say Irish, when you say German, you're not confused on who's being talked about. Ethonyms are not supposed to be confusing, and it's supposed to be clear cut who it's addressing. So we're not bringing nothing new, people. We're bringing back something old that was there first. We're bringing back Black. We're just bringing it. We're just making it more armed, so it can never be replaced by another confusing term ever again to undermine and sabotage. So we're bringing Black back. We're bringing Black back, but we're dressing it up. We're giving it armor. We're giving it armor, a sword, and a shield. That's what we're doing. And that armor, sword, and shield, foundational Black American descendants of slaves. Okay? You see? Are you foundational? Yeah. Are you Black? Yeah. Are you American? Yes. Are you a descendant of slavery? Yes. Okay. You're FBA DOS. That's a fact. Now, I already showed videos where before there were such terms to call us, right? Before we actually delineated, it was hard to delineate us from recent immigrants, Afro immigrants, because we called ourselves the same thing. So the term that they would use to separate us from the recent Afro immigrants, they would use black somehow. They'll say that, and then somehow everybody knows what we're talking about. Or at times they'll just say Das. They'll just say he's not a descendant of slavery. Or they'll say, okay, this guy is a descendant of slavery. And that was the way to speak to us or not to speak to us. And you wanted to be specific and get down to the gritty. Okay. So now, Stokely Michael is championed to coin the term Black Power, right? And we overpraised them. So did Tethers. Now, following up on Stokely Carmichael, did you know he left the Black Power bandwagon and hopped on the African American bandwagon? Yes, he did. He hopped off all that blackety black talk, to recall him the yo yo yo. You got the yo 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 white boys, you got the blackety black Afro immigrants. So he was a blackety black. Okay, all that blackety black stuff. Now all of a sudden, yeah, African American seem okay with me. He started talking that tether talk, talking about we're Africans in America. We're not American, and we need to fight the system of capitalism and change it to a socialist system. And we need to change the world. That's how you started talking in 1990, 1989 to be exact. And of course, he got cooked by two founders of Black American men. Like, nah, bro, you tripping. So I address who's black, founders of Black Americans, who's not, everybody who's not foundation Black American, and I address who's FBA, those who went through U.S. chattel slavery. If you came over in a slave ship and you got sent off somewhere else and you didn't experience U.S. chattel slavery, you're not FBA. If you were already here and somehow you avoided U.S. chattel slavery, you're not FBA. Now, U.S. chattel slavery is the start. It's not the end all be all. There's other requirements. Okay. There's other requirements that I would get into another day. Right now, I'm just giving you an overall, a rough draft of the overall. Okay. Overall of the rough draft. The rough draft. You dig it? Is there any confusion? Is there any questions from the chat? My fault. Okay. So now everything I said just now, what can be refuted? What can be debated? I gave you pinpoint, precise history. This is why they don't call in click that link. I left no room for debate. I know I left no room for concerns and questions. I gave you flat out history. I said FBA is not a new term. We're just taking an old term and putting it back in the forefront. We're getting rid of the new term. The new term is African American. Black was already here. Okay. That's what we're doing. And I know, well, I'm learning. I'm a strong voice in this space because I see how I'm being greeted by tethers and Pan-Africans when I'm in these chats that's led by them. Like, you would think they wouldn't even know who I am. And then I go in there and they start getting on me right away. And then, All right, so anybody that would love a replay, want to hear this again, tune in tomorrow. You dig? I'm out. Quick, easy one. B1, we won, family.